This is Kathy Engelberg's worst nightmare views on this channel. The television ratings, the interest, Thanos snapped out of existence. The WNBA and the Indiana Fever did not want people to know that Caitlin Clark was going to be out for the season. ESPN bragging about WNBA ratings for the WNBA season. From the very day that they decided to let that go public, everything has dropped off a cliff.
Did ESPN really hype up the WNBA's ratings while hiding the truth about Caitlin Clark's season-ending absence? Fans thought she was coming back, that she would carry Indiana into a playoff run, and then, out of nowhere, the announcement drops and interest falls off a cliff. Why didn't we hear the full story sooner? And why did engagement dry up the moment she was ruled out? Let's dig into the evidence and find out if the league knows it can't survive without its biggest star.
Look, so many people stayed engaged with the team because they thought the cavalry was coming. Whatever it is, silent protest, who knows? Guess what? Hardly anybody actually gives a shit. The Indiana Fever and the WNBA, they knew this. Why do you think so many people were mad?
Before we move on, I'd like to ask you a small favor. If you appreciate this content, please take a second to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Over 98% of you watch the videos without subscribing. It costs you nothing, but it makes a huge difference to us. So did you click the subscribe button? Great, thank you so much. Now back to the video. Why did the league's version of the rating story sound so different from what people actually saw? That's the question fans started asking when all the hype didn't seem to match what their own eyes were telling them. ESPN went out of its way to announce that 8 of the 10 biggest women's games on TV this past season belonged to them.
That's why that game did a rating that big. Guess what? Caitlin Clark played and had a triple-double. Most televised WNBA game on ESPN networks in history, 2.7 million viewers.
On paper, that sounded like dominance. It sounded like proof that momentum was building, that new fans were sticking around. But if you looked beyond the headline and actually tracked what was happening once Caitlin Clark was out, the picture didn't just look different. It looked almost unrecognizable. The spin focused on averages, on percentages, on record-setting designs. Meanwhile, when the actual games rolled around after Clark was sidelined, the energy just wasn't there. The numbers dropped so hard that many fans felt almost tricked. It was like someone showed you a chart with bright arrows pointing upward, but if you switched over to the live broadcast itself, the audience was nowhere to be found. And that's what set the stage for so many frustrated conversations online.
About the interest of this league, it hinges on one person. Whether they like it or not, it's her worst nightmare because so much of what people have said has come true. Guys, that game drew less, right here, less than 100,000 viewers.
Because the experience simply didn't line up with the story being pushed. Now picture this, fans buying tickets weeks in advance, convinced they were going to see Clark return before the season was done. Promotions were everywhere. Schedules were built around games featuring her name. Families thought they were planning the outing of the summer. Then they walk into the arena and realize she's not even dressed. Not 10 minutes late, not scratched in warm-ups, but done, completely out. No chance of playing again that season.
There is so little interest in the WNBA right now that Angel Reese literally has... It looks like she's quit on her team. People felt like they were going to games thinking this team would have Caitlin Clark coming back to make a championship run. She's coming back. We're going to have a fighting chance to win the WNBA championship. The game in Baltimore the other day with the Mystics, nearly 3,000 fans decided not to show up, and they paid for the ticket.
How would you feel in that spot? That's the exact position countless buyers ended up in. One of the clearest examples played out in Washington. The Mystics had marketed a matchup that was supposed to be huge. The team reportedly sold thousands of tickets in advance, but when the actual day came, There were wide patches of empty red seats. It wasn't just a random slow night. It was the simple result of fans expecting Caitlin Clark and then finding out at the last minute she wasn't part of the show.
The Indiana Fever versus the Mystics, the game I was talking about, with 3,000 less seats, only 270,000 people tuned into that game. The WNBA season averaged 1.3 million viewers. This is on ABC and ESPN. But yeah, we got ESPN putting this garbage out.
Attendance looked like a balloon losing all its air as soon as the truth became obvious. And that visual of a half-filled arena in what was supposed to be a highlight matchup became symbolic of how thin the surge in demand really was. You could see similar problems with the television ratings. When Clark led the Fever, viewership crossed 1 million screens. National broadcasts had the same buzz as top-tier playoff games, and social media was constantly clipping her highlights. But the second she was removed from the rotation, games started sliding under 100,000 viewers. That isn't just a dip, that's a collapse. We're talking about audiences in prime time that barely even register compared to when she suited up. And here's the part that made everyone question the messaging. If the league already knew she was finished for the season, why not say it right away? Why let people believe a comeback was possible and keep fueling the idea of her return? It wasn't only the ticket buyers who felt caught off guard. Even casual viewers saw broadcasts that seemed built around her as if she would play a role, only to be told later that she was done months ago. That's the root of the frustration. The league seemed happy to enjoy the sugar high of Clark mania without leveling with the fans about what was actually happening. And when the reality finally broke, it immediately showed how dependent everything had become on a single player carrying the interest. Ticket sales slowed, online chatter dropped to almost nothing, and instead of capitalizing on momentum, the league was left scrambling. The truth is, the decline wasn't gradual. It wasn't a gentle slope, it was sharp. Fans went from planning road trips to leaving seats unsold. Viewers went from checking ESPN during the week to barely even realizing games were on. That sudden cliff exposed something much deeper than a regular ratings fluctuation. It made obvious what was already hiding in plain sight. The WNBA's growth engine wasn't the league as a whole, it was Caitlin Clark herself. And that takes us beyond attendance, beyond TV audiences. Because if one absence flips everything upside down, then the issue is bigger than ratings. It's about whether the league can stand on more than a single star at all. The whole season showed how fragile the setup really was. When one rookie's absence sends ratings crashing, that's not just bad luck. That's a structural problem. Fans needed clarity, but instead they got confusion. And the trust broke almost overnight. Now the question isn't just about numbers. Can the WNBA survive if all the weight sits on one superstar's shoulders? Or will it keep struggling the moment she isn't there to drive attention? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Because honestly, can women's basketball really grow if one injury feels like a Thanos snap erasing every bit of momentum?